Hello, this is Todd Ange Barnett. Normally, I don't record, post, show MP3s or statements concerning the show on the air, but I'm going to make an exception for this special one. And this is probably the first and only special here that I'm doing. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going on this statement that I'm making right now, which will be uploaded to TalkShoe, and everybody can digest it to their delight. And I hope that people really see it for what it is. It's basically a response to what one of the interview guests on last night's show had said with respect to our war policy and immigration. First of all, I wanted to say that last night's show was great. I enjoyed it immensely. It couldn't have gotten any better. I think that was the best part of it, and I just think that everything went the way it pretty much did. I think we went way too overboard with the discussions a little bit. I think that we spent way too much time on the topics and whatnot, but that happens on every show, so I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'm going to make this message to Bettina Viviano, who was the guest speaker on the show. She was our interview guest, per se. And since she was on the air last night, she basically had a lot to say on the show, on the radio waves. I'm going to read her statement that she put out on Facebook. She writes here, "Wow, just wow. I went on some libertarian talk radio show and I found out just how much like liberals they are and how much they hate anyone who says they are Republican. Let's just say the words Bush and Nixon got thrown in my face endlessly. And something that surprised me, I didn't realize libertarians are all about open borders. I actually thought they were on the sensible side of the immigration issue. Nope, just because I said I believe in legal immigration and a secure border, I got accused of hating Hispanics. When did these people go so far off the deep end? Libertarians don't belong on the GOP ticket. I don't know what the hell they are, but in my opinion, they should run on the Democratic ticket. Oh yeah, and when it was time for me to go and get off the show, the show host muted me and said, "Be sure to check for jihadis under your bed." Nice. I tried really hard to get along with these nuts and to be pleasant, and I got brutalized, the word brutalize in capital letters, for being Republican, called a war hawk and all that crap. That's it. I'm done with the libertarian lunatics. I tried. They're fucking insane. And insane is capitalized altogether. Okay, this is my response to Bettina. Bettina, you and I agreed that you would be coming on the air, that you knew very well what this show was all about, that you knew that we were going to disagree with you, probably on quite a handful of topics from here on out. That being said, you knew that we were going to somewhere deep inside of you probably knew that you were going to disagree with us on the war issue and on the immigration issue. We didn't clobber you to the point where we were trying to attack you personally or make it personal outside the range of politics. We weren't using ad hominems. We weren't making fun of you. We didn't say anything that was short of being pleasant with you. We were having a debate. We were disagreeing. Okay? I made some points. I even made the point about the Irish Republican Army. You didn't respond to those points. Will Colley, Matthew Erickson, and my co-host, who was actually hosting the show that night, were telling you their positions on this. They feel that we shouldn't be subsidizing any country, sending taxpayer money to any country whatsoever. But yet you seem to be under the opinion that taxpayer subsidies should only go to Israel and not to any other country. Well, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. And that's all there is to it. When I introduced you on the show, yes, you are a war hawk, and I stand by that statement. You told me in private before we went on the air that you didn't agree with Ron Paul's foreign policy as well as Rand Paul's foreign policy. If you're a Republican, and usually Republicans support nation building, they support invading, occupying, and conquering a country for the benefit of securing its natural resources, and taking control of the people, dictating what kind of governments they should have, and how the people in those countries should live. If you think that it's okay, if you think that we should be telling people how to live their lives in those countries, then I'm sorry. But the second you started saying that we should go to war with Islam, the second that you start saying that you want to go to war with these brutal dictators who have nothing to do with us, they're not the ones behind 9/11 and whatnot, then yes, you are a war hawk. You are by definition a war hawk. It's on Wikipedia. Look it up. Google it. Okay? Libertarian position on foreign intervention is very clear. Ron Paul pointed this out in the debates in 2008 and 2012, that there was serious blowback. If you don't think that there is no such thing as serious blowback that affects how we do in those countries, how we deal with these people, how we deal with these thugs, then yes, there's going to be a considerable amount of blowback. There's going to be collateral damage. And that collateral damage usually consists of innocent men, women, and children on both sides of the aisle. And it's not just on their turf, it's also on our turf when the terrorists decide to attack us. You seem to be under the opinion that it's okay for us to use the old expression, stir up the hornet's nest. That means putting our hands into a hornet's nest, and you want us to get stung. That's the whole point. If you put your hand in a nest that is populated with and occupied by a bunch of hornets, you are going to get stung. That's exactly what happens. The chickens came home to roost on 9/11 because of decades of foreign policy. We instituted the Iranian Shah in 1953. Actually, it was 1952, give or take a year. And in 1979, we deposed the Shah of Iran. We interfered with the Middle East for far so long. And because we ordered the CIA to intervene in these matters and to take out a number of dissidents who were speaking out against American exceptionalism, against American policy, who were speaking out against our government. Yes, we are going to get hurt because innocent lives are going to be killed. You know, after 9/11, our freedoms have been destroyed, and it started even long before 9/11, but 9/11 was the culmination of all of it. We had the Patriot Act. We had numerous incursions of our liberties. We had the spying program that Republicans didn't seem to give two shits about when it came to our listening to our phone records, reading our emails, listening to our conversations, and so on. The Obama administration is pursuing the same Bush foreign policy that Bush started in 2001 and 2002, and he's been pursuing that war policy. He may be friendlier about it, he may be using drones instead of boots on the ground, but the reality is he's been doing the same thing. There's an old admonition by George Washington: peace, friendship, and commerce with all nations, entangling alliances with none. John Quincy Adams went before one of the legislatures in the states, before Congress actually, and said, America does not go abroad in search of monsters to destroy. In other words, we do not go around dictating to other people what they can do, because when we separated ourselves from England, from King George III, he did the same thing. He sent his armies from shore to shore. And what happened? So many casualties. So many lives were destroyed. So many of our soldiers were killed. So many of his soldiers were killed as well. So our foreign policy is no different from what King George III did. In many ways, George Bush's foreign policy was the culmination of a lot of problems. Of course, there are many presidents who imposed rendition and so many different policies that were contrary to American interests, that were anti-American, that were anti-freedom across the board. Yet you Republicans who claim to be for liberty, who claim to champion limited government, who claim to champion personal responsibility, you guys are the opposite of everything that you claim to be all about. The problem with you, Bettina, and other Republicans like you, is that you have no moral convictions whatsoever. You say that we're liberals. In many ways, you're right. We are liberals. We're classical liberals, not progressives. We don't want to expand government. We want to eliminate as much government as possible. We want to get rid of the state. We want to, but in the interim, we want to cut the cost, size, and scope of the state. Unlike you, who claim to want to do those things, but you just want to keep some things around because it's to preserve the status quo. What are you conserving? What do conservatives conserve? The status quo. They want to protect and conserve the status quo. That's what you guys are all about. And that's what we were trying to get to you last night. As far as immigration is concerned, I can easily tell you that you guys can't have it both ways. You can't say you want to secure the borders, but also secure Syria's borders as well. You know, I find it very hypocritical that you want both, yet we have no business being in Syria and in much places around the world. We don't have any business being the world's policeman, yet you want to secure the borders. You know something? Immigrants are a blessing to this country. They're the reasons why we exist. America has always been a melting pot. The reason why your parents, you were talking about your family last night, about how they first came here, how they managed to become screened for illnesses, how they came into the country legally. Well, you know what? They came into this country not because it was legal. They came to this country because there were no immigration laws that restricted them from coming into the borders, that restricted them from coming into Ellis Island. The immigration laws then were different from the immigration laws we have today. Those laws back then that actually discriminated against the Chinese, the Irish, the Germans, you name it, they were anti-American, anti-freedom, and anti-immigrants. And Republicans who say they're for legal immigration are full of shit. They hate immigrants. They despise immigrants. Because of 5 things. 1, they ain't white, they ain't Christian, they ain't Republican, they ain't American, and most importantly, they vote Democrat. That's why Republicans can't stand illegal immigrants. That's why, and I hate the term illegal immigrants. They're called, we call them independent migrants. These are immigrants who come to the borders who have no way of getting in legally because the restrictive and oppressive controls that regulate the amount of immigrants coming to this country are so costly, time-consuming, and not to mention ludicrous by nature. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And let's not forget that at ICE, if you go to the Department of Homeland Security, and you go directly through ICE, which is part of Homeland Security, if you try to apply for a visa or a green card, most of these people who come into the country really can't afford it because the costs are too expensive. And they didn't sign up for the system of welfare. They didn't sign up for the welfare programs. We created the welfare mess. You want to complain about what happened with Fast and Furious, which was another scandal that plagued the Obama administration? That was because of the drug war and the war on guns, not because of immigrants. You want to talk about how the fact that it takes years for immigrants to legally come into the country, and you'll be lucky if they don't lose the paperwork. Good. I hope you understand that, because they do lose the paperwork. And more often than not, because of bureaucratic red tape, this is what happens when Republicans don't address immigration issue to the point of making it easier for immigrants to come here so that they can enjoy the fruits of being American. You want these people to become American citizens? Give them incentives to come to this country. Stop with this E-Verify bullshit. George W. Bush did the right thing when he put on a guest worker program. And that was the most beneficial policy that Bush ever did. That was probably the only good thing he did when it came to immigrants, because he's from Texas and he knows what immigrants are like. I was never a fan of Bush, but at least he got something right for a change. So let's be clear about something. Immigrants are a blessing to this country. Yes, when Republicans say they don't want illegal immigrants, they're racist. They're hateful, they're spiteful, because they're part of an old man's party that needs to dispel the old, tired, exhausted, conservative principles that really no longer hold any water. You want to know why the millennials of today are rejecting both major parties? Because they don't like the bullshit that both major parties are spoon-feeding them. You think we're on the side of the Democrats? No. We're against the Democrats as much as we're against you. We're against you guys equally. Millennials can't stand you guys because you guys lie routinely. And you know you do. And don't bullshit me with your crappy lecture about how Republicans are the last hope for mankind, because they're not. Tell me this, Bettina. Name one government program that Republicans have successfully shut down. Name one tax that Republicans have either repealed or cut. Name one regulation that Republicans have either repealed or cut. And I doubt you'll hear crickets chirping in the wind. I bet you will. So if I were you, I'd do your homework. And by the way, considering you're a history major, I don't believe for a second that you were on the dean's list. I think you flunked history. I think you said that to score some political points because it emboldens your stature, if you will. It makes you look good. It actually inflates your ego. So let's dispense with the God and ego complexes for once, because we know for a fact that Republicans are in both Congress and the Senate simply because they want to expand the state. They're not interested in getting rid of Obamacare. Some Republicans have already said this, like Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, and a whole lot of them are not interested in repealing Obamacare. They're not interested in repealing some parts of the program. They're not interested in making progress. They're not even touching it with a 10-foot pole, because they are for Obamacare. Republicans lie. They lie about who they are and what they stand for. And that's all I got to say for you, Bettina. And I'm sorry you swallowed the pill that makes you believe in the two-party structure, that you hate libertarians with a capital L. But I'm a proud libertarian with a capital L. I'm also a lowercase libertarian / anarcho-capitalist. And I'm proud of my principles that I stand by. At least I have moral convictions that come with my positions. What do you got? This is Todd Inge Barnett, signing off.